How to make hard things easy. I really wanted to talk about this topic from a point of knowledge, but I'm almost a little bit embarrassed because I was bullshitting myself. I am not as good at hard things anymore as I used to be. If I'm brutally honest, I'm awfully distracted lately. And there's a reason for that. And it affects our businesses. And if you're a founder and you find that you're all over the shop more often than you like, this might be interesting. Let's start right at the beginning. What do we need in order to do hard things? We need motivation. And how do we get motivation? How do human beings get motivated? Well, yes, fear and carrot and stick, definitely not posters on the wall. No, it's a more chemical thing. There is a chemical in our brain that you have heard of. It's called dopamine. Our brain produces dopamine to keep us motivated. So that's a really, really useful thing. It sort of rewards us for doing something. It's the pleasure neurotransmitter in our brain. And over the last 5 or so years, billions of dollars have been spent to hijack that process. And you know exactly what I mean. Like just today, I saw a notification on my phone. My son pinged me, and he doesn't text me on SMS, he doesn't use WhatsApp, he uses Instagram to chat with me, which is fine. So I saw the ping, opened Instagram, and like 45 minutes later, I liked 12 messages, saw a few stories, and went right down the rabbit hole. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't read his message. And that was sort of like, wow. I mean, I'm highly aware of social media hijacking us. There's Instagram, there's YouTube Shorts, there's TikTok, and we are almost defenseless against it. I mean, I feel like I'm almost not capable of resisting. I always do more than I actually want to do. And that by itself is not a problem, but these short bursts of dopamine, of liking something and looking something, and the next story, and the next story, and the next story, and the next story, and here a laugh, and there's sadness, and there's this, and there's that, every time we get a little dopamine release. And imagine there's like a tank, and we are sort of, tapping it out, like another one, and another one, and another one. And you get on this high. And the way the brain works is when you stop doing what makes you high, you crash. So there's a zero baseline where you're just okay, right? Then you go super happy. And when you stop that pleasure thing, you drop below the baseline, and then we feel unmotivated. And in order to get out of that, we start the cycle all over again. We need a quick hit again. And that is really incredibly unproductive for getting anything done. So when you're in that valley, your brain is exhausted, and an exhausted brain defaults to easy. It doesn't start the difficult things, so you procrastinate them further. Now, you can reverse that. That's the cool thing. You can literally put the hard thing first, and then you get the dopamine. The problem with that is that it's hard. You have to start with something that is unpleasant. It's really unpleasant. I'm always talking about going to the gym. Like you're going there and your muscles hurt and it's unpleasant, but afterwards you're feeling great. A lot of hard tasks are like that as well, right? So, cheap dopamine, hard life, hard dopamine, good life. That's basically the formula. How do I break this cycle? How do I do something hard? So I know now that fast dopamine gives me a hard life eventually, and slow dopamine gives me a good life. How do I jump out of that vicious cycle of fast dopamine and get to the point where I can start with slow dopamine? A lot of people would say, quit social media. And you can try. Good luck. I don't think that is a realistic option. It is just so well designed, it's almost impossible. But what we can do is we can control our schedule. So how about you don't let social media leak into your whole day, you give it its time box. Something after lunch when you're a little bit tired anyway. So or early afternoon. Create two bookends for your day that are peaceful and serene, and not, there's no problem solving. Your brain doesn't get hijacked. Think, sit and think, meditate, play the guitar, scribble something, cook a really beautiful breakfast. Try to avoid too much decision making and deep thinking. Like, start the day slow and finish the day slow. Two bookends, right? And then somewhere in the middle of the day, you can reward yourself with social media and put your Insta, TikTok, YouTube short time frame, 45 minutes after lunch. Do that. Then it doesn't leak into the whole day. You contain it. So that gives you the opportunity to create slow dopamine. When you do that, when you start doing that, you switch your behavior and you wean yourself off that fast dopamine. The first 3 days are harder. We all say, it gets harder before it gets better, but it's worth it. So just hang in there. And if you should fail in between, don't be so hard on yourself. Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. Be compassionate. Say like, hey, shit happens. Now get back into the right thing. So now you have more dopamine available for slow dopamine. Remember, doing the hard thing first and the reward comes later. The old us would do the pleasure first and then it gets a hard life or the crash. Now you do the pain first and then you get the pleasure, then you get the reward, then you feel good about yourself. So how do we make this stick, right? So it's quite easy to try these things out for a little while, but not getting back into old habits is quite difficult. There's not much we can control in the world, but there's one thing we can control, and that's how we react. And when we get this feeling of, this is hard, man, I want to give up, we can remind ourselves that this is the entry ticket for slow dopamine. That is the entry ticket for feeling really rewarded, really satisfied, really proud of ourselves. And it will come. And make that the habit. And when that reward comes, remind ourselves that that was because I did this hard thing and I continued it. So before I go, there's one more thing, and that's the founder trap. As a startup founder, what does all this have to do with my startup, Bonny? That's a good question. A lot, actually, because your startup grows with the quality of your attention. And if your brain is always tired, you might avoid all the difficult things. But there's one more thing, and it especially applies to scale-ups. There's another dopamine hit that we as founders get addicted to, and that is firefighting. As much as we pretend we hate chaos and we hate problems and we hate firefighting, in a way, we get addicted to it. We feel accomplished, we feel busy, we feel needed, we feel smart. We get used to that. Firefighting is also releasing dopamine, fast dopamine, and there's hard crashes. That's the same thing as social media. That is a surefire way to kill your company. And you know the saying, what got you here won't get you there. That's it, that behavior. So the same principles of weaning yourself off that dopamine applies here as well. And I will talk about that in another episode, and how to restructure your brain first and then restructure the business so you can do the painful things first and get the big rewards later. It's getting a little cold. I'll see you later.